With Cyberpunk delayed all the way to September, Doom Eternal's release is even more eagerly anticipated than it already was. I mean, we gotta have something to hold us through these trying Keanu-less times, and what better way to do so than kicking some demon butt? With a longer and more diverse campaign reportedly clocking in at over 22 hours, it's expected to be a much more elaborate affair than its predecessor, with new threats, unique weapons, and ways of traversing the levels being steadily introduced throughout the game to keep it fresh. id Software has also promised to steer clear of any microtransactions and in-game store solutions, stating that a full AAA $60 game shouldn't resort to mobile game tactics, and that all cosmetics and level-up upgrades will be available only through in-game XP. And in this day and age, that's certainly something to get hyped up about. However, if you have an RTX card and were hoping to take those dedicated ray tracing cores out for a spin with this one, well, it ain't happening. Even though it was one of the announced features, the company has decided to shelf ray tracing in favor of more polish in other aspects of the game. They did, however, leave a window of opportunity open to, in their words, explore the possibility of adding it in post-launch and emphasize how excited the devs were about the new technology and possibly taking it to new places other than just better reflections and shadows. While it does always feel awful when announced features don't make it to the final product, this was not at all unexpected. Even back in mid-2019, id Software's Marty Stratton clearly laid out that ray tracing support was not their chart-topping priority.
We want to put the game in as many people's hands as possible. RTX makes it look, amazing.
Right, yeah, there's cool benefits there.
Great benefits, but it doesn't necessarily expand our audience.
Sure.
The way that something like Stadia does. So.
The harsh truth, and I've been saying this for a while, is that ray tracing is for now a niche feature for a small percentage of the target audience, namely those with an NVIDIA RTX card. And while Turing is no slouch in sales, it's still a drop in the bucket compared with the vast majority collectively using older architecture NVIDIA cards, AMD cards, or playing on current-gen consoles, for example. Gaming development, like all endeavors, is a juggling act of limited funds and resources, and as such, allocating time for implementation of ray tracing features necessarily impacts on other aspects and features of the game. And sadly, it doesn't just work like Jensen Huang said, intimating that wondrous sights would pop in at the touch of a button.
Everything just works. Everything just works. Everything just works.
Keep in mind, I'm not questioning his assertion that it might ultimately be easier for devs to implement than traditional techniques, but as things are right now, it's not really a substitute for them, but an addition. It takes time to explore new technologies to come up with an interesting application for them and ultimately apply them efficiently to your game. So, to be worth allocating that amount of resources, a new feature needs to be a draw, something that will make your game stand out. Not just to a few select people, but to a wide swath of your target audience. Once new-gen consoles are released and hopefully see a good adoption rate from the console crowd, and subsequently AMD starts implementing ray tracing capabilities into their desktop graphics card lineup, which Lisa Su has firmly claimed will happen within this year, we will have a much wider and diverse market segment clamoring for use for their new, shiny, dynamically reflective toy. And that's when we can expect dev studios to start to prioritize ray tracing implementations and doing cool new things with it. As for how successful they will be and how much it'll impact on performance, this only time will tell, but I'm hoping to be impressed.
But absolutely people can look forward to Doom Eternal and id Tech 7 supporting ray tracing. Absolutely. I mean, we love that stuff. The team loves it, and I think we'll do it better than anybody, honestly. So.
And speaking of next-gen consoles, Bluepoint Games, famous for producing impressive remakes and remasters, most notably Shadow of the Colossus both for the PS3 and the PS4, seem to have a new title in the pipeline, and they're not shy about hyping it up in their newly redone website, claiming that it'll set a next-gen visual benchmark. This news hints at what we've been forecasting as Sony's strategy for the next gen, with next-gen exclusives coming out soon after the console's released, if not as launch titles themselves. Other than that, they've been sparse with details, and we currently don't even know if it'll be a remake or a brand new IP. Given the company's track record, though, I'd be inclined to believe the former, and there's been rumors floating about that it might be From Software's classic Demon Souls, which could really benefit from those SSD-improved load times. Anyway, this just goes to show you that with new-gen console release dates approaching, the hostilities have begun, and we will be seeing more of devs starting to hype up the projects they've been carefully guarding for the past few years. And since we're on the subject, let's also take a look at the other side of the barricade of the upcoming console war. Phil Spencer has been pretty vocal recently, allowing us to form a good mental picture of Microsoft's strategy for their next-gen launches. Most recently, on an interview with Stevivor.com, he's outlined that while graphics have hit a pretty impressive level on current-gen consoles, the next challenge is to make them feel and play as good as they look, hinting at higher frame rate and more stable frame rate gaming than what is currently possible due to obvious current-gen console CPU limitations in relation to their graphic capabilities. While he made clear that third-party developers will be free to explore the new possibilities of the hardware as they please, this kind of talk gives a definite impression that at least for upcoming first-party games, the focus will not be on the touted 8K resolutions, or in his words, just throwing more pixels up on the screen, but at a performance increase relative to last-gen consoles. This is mostly in line with what we've been prognosticating as Microsoft's strategy for the next gen, as it's been officially revealed that first-party next-gen exclusives won't be a thing for up to a year, maybe more of the console's lifecycle. It's easy to see games running at slower frame rates on the old hardware and becoming more stable, high frame rate ventures on the newer consoles. Of course, it would be ideal, from my perspective, that we could see PC-like customization that would enable these upcoming titles to either step it up a notch in performance on next-gen hardware, or alternatively, on other titles less dependent on fast inputs and competitive frame rates, to see options for increased graphical fidelity and high resolutions that aren't available for previous-gen hardware. With that said, clamor for better performance over overkill resolutions has been on many console gamers' list of demands, so it's definitely an interesting strategy that Microsoft seems to be leaning into, and we're keen to see how it'll play out. In reaction to the coronavirus outbreak in China, the central government has taken very firm measures with the intention of nipping the problem in the bud. We had heard before of cities with over 10 million inhabitants being quarantined, but now also large factories have had their production shut down by way of precaution. These are mainly related to high manpower manufacturing businesses and export-heavy industries, such as consumer electronics, home appliances, and semiconductor products. These include such household names as Samsung, the pharma giant Johnson & Johnson, and Foxconn, which manufactures products for companies all over Silicon Valley, most notably the Apple iPhone. These developments have raised concerns of upcoming stock market instability and a possible rise in consumer prices. So now it's not just you at risk, it's your wallet too. Be careful out there. And as always, when news of a possible new pandemic spread, sales of the perennially successful Plague Inc. PC and mobile game have risen considerably as gamers apparently feel the hankering for a bit of topical fun. But while recent news of quarantined megalopolises and giant manufacturing plants shutting down might seem reminiscent of a sci-fi disaster movie or video game, Plague Inc. developer Endemic Creations has reached out on Twitter to remind everyone that while they've created the game to be educational and informative, which has been recognized by the CDC and other organizations, it's still just a game and not a scientific model, advising everyone to get their information directly from local and global health authorities and avoid spreading panic. So if you're watching this video from an underground bunker in Madagascar while playing Plague Inc. on your cell phone, do remember to also keep an eye out for official news, and most of all, have fun staving off the end of civilization. Wait, I mean, have fun and don't panic. That's the one.